in just a couple of seconds. Let's see.
I
Here
had a
we
little thing
go.
said that we were live. Oh, there you
Yeah, it always takes a little bit longer to fully live stream on all of the channels. So, but if all goes well, we should be there and the recording should be on and all of the things should be happening right now. Awesome. Well, let me start with an introduction first. So, if you're watching this or if you're listening to this, welcome to the Master Your Exit live show powered by The Big Exit. I'm Lynn. I'm going to be your host for today. And on this Master Your Exit live show, we bring practical insights, expert interviews, which we're going to have today, and tools to help small business owners like you prepare for your big exit. Now, this live show airs every Tuesday at 7 a.m. in Los Angeles. So, good morning, very early morning if you're over there, 10 a.m. in New York, or 3 p.m. in London, which is the time zone where my guest is at right now. We keep each show short and simple and about 30 minutes maximum. If you're tuning in on our YouTube channel or on our LinkedIn channel, thank you so much for being here. Welcome. If you've joined us live here in our virtual Zoom studio, that's really cool as well. You can drop LinkedIn. You can drop exit related questions, into the studio chat, and we'll be happy to answer them during the show or in any of the next shows that are scheduled. Now, if you're watching this episode later, just so you know, you can watch all of the episodes from the Master Your Exit live show on our website, thebigexit.co/master your exit shows with a little dash in between every single word. Or you can listen to it on your favorite podcast platform as well. And that's the introduction for today. Um, I am joined today in the UK by Jo Wood. She's the founder of the Six Figure Bookkeeper. She's an author, she's a podcast host. She's also the co founder of Hey Monica, which is an AI software. Love that name, by the way. And she built and sold her multi six figure bookkeeping business a while ago. And I kind of have planned a couple of questions in this show specifically around that exiting episode that happened in her life a couple of years ago. Jo, welcome on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Lynn. Thank you. It's so nice to
I'm
be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you are here. It had a little bit of time in the making before it actually happened. So I'm so glad we get to meet here in this space and have you on the show just before the end of the year. What an incredible milestone.
Yeah, I
I
know. It's nearly Christmas.
I know, right? Time's flying. It's absolutely, yeah. I mean, where did the year go? Blink and it's gone. Now, I wanted to talk to you about an episode that happened a little while ago already. When was it again that you've successfully
August,
exited?
August 23.
August of 23. So that's a couple of years ago. So I feel now that whole episode is probably kind of a page that you've turned and you've moved on in some newer projects that you're doing, being an author and a podcast host, and you started a couple of new businesses as well. But I'd love to take you back to 2023, if that's
Mhm.
okay. There's a couple of questions that I had prepared for this show, and first of all, I'd love to take you back, even further than 2023, like 3 to 5 years, maybe if that's relevant. It might be shorter, but that time before you exited and sold the business, what were like the earliest signs that your business could actually be sold? And were there certain things that you underestimated once you started thinking of maybe potentially selling?
Oh, yeah, so many. So it was never on the roadmap to sell as quickly as I did. So I have started and ended multiple bookkeeping practices over the years, and this was my fifth one. And I only started it in 2019, July 2019. So it wasn't that old of a business. when I eventually
Yeah.
sold. So I definitely didn't think it was going to be selling. And only because it was, my our main income. It was supporting everybody, not just me. There was my sister, my brother-in-law, my husband. We were all shareholders, and all, it was keeping two families and five children between us, all fed and looked after. So it wasn't really the plan straight away at all. When I started, it was going to be supporting us for a really long time. But alongside building my bookkeeping business, I was building a bookkeeping community, the Six Figure Bookkeepers Club. And I noticed that I, having conversations with other entrepreneurs that was masterminding with, and I saw people were exiting maybe software companies or different types of businesses. And it got me thinking that I didn't know a bookkeeper that had sold successfully. I had actually exited a practice before and was offered some money, but there was a non-compete clause included, and I wouldn't have been able to earn a living. So I turned down the money and carried on building another business.
Mm.
So I hadn't had a successful exit for any of my previous ones, and I didn't realize that it was kind of possible. But because I was building this community, and I'm building the community around getting better business skills as bookkeepers so that they can support their clients more, I was realizing that I had clients that wanted to exit and I didn't really know what the procedure was. So I learned it for them. And then I realized I know now how to exit a business.
I could
Or
sell this one.
yeah, and life changes, things happen, and my community was growing and growing and growing. My bookkeeping business was growing and growing and growing, but my passion was definitely in helping the community. And I've, as well as having three children, I had two babies in the two businesses, and I only have one brain. And I was like, I'm not feeling that I'm giving either of them the most of my, best of my abilities and my time. Um, and I knew which one would go first. So I also thought, as a leader of a community, wouldn't it be great if I could show my community that one day they could exit their bookkeeping business? So it was like a very small seed in the brain, I think about 6 months to a year potentially before I sold. Not very long.
Wow, that's a very short timeline. So, what happens in between? Oh, maybe I could sell this. I see other
Yeah.
people selling it. This would be a great use case for my community as well. Like, I can teach them, like, between these little seeds that are in your head and between actually selling, it's like 6 to 12 months, which is unfathomable fast. It's
Yes.
incredible. Like, what has been that process after since? Because there's a huge difference between realizing you can sell a business and
Yeah.
actually selling it. There's a lot of stuff that happens in between.
Well, I think the beauty of running a bookkeeping business means that my finances and my bookkeeping and my KPIs and all of those things were, top notch. Because also remember, I was teaching others how to run a bookkeeping business. So my bookkeeping business was running really well. I was teaching them how to market and get clients, how to price effectively, how to build teams. So I can't coach and not actually implement. So my
Do it.
business was running well. But what my business wasn't doing was the brand was a personal brand. And in my head, I had it, well, I'm never going to be able to sell a personal brand business. My business was called Joe Wood Virtual FD. And so I thought I'd have to go on a much longer journey. So my first thing I thought about was rebranding. But before I did that, what I did was create what I call, and I teach this in our communities, the perfect P&L. The perfect P&L is a point in time that you look at your profit and loss, which I know not everyone geeks out like I do, and I'm saying it like it's something everyone does every day. I know you're all not like me, but I coach our bookkeepers to create a perfect P&L. What does your P&L look like on the day you feel that you've made it in your business? And we start with how much you're taking out, you add back the tax, you add back the costs and the team that you want, and then you end up with the turnover. And then with that turnover amount, you think, how many clients could I like really want to serve at that level? And then you divide that turnover by the amount of clients, and you've got your package. What would you do for these people at that amount of money? And my package was £450 a month. Now, I had some clients pay me £2,000 a month. I had a couple pay me about £200 a month, but I knew that that was my ideal. So I'd had that. So I was already doing that. But then I thought, well, no one's going to want to buy Joe Wood Virtual FD. No one's going to want to buy that. So I'm going to have to go on a rebranding exercise. And we did that, and we did a lot of work around the values and everything. And I knew what my perfect P&L was like, going to look like when I sold. Actually, we did at one time, I thought I wanted £1 million turnover practice, and we mapped that out. And actually, it didn't actually align with me, the amount of clients we'd have to serve, the amount of team we'd have to serve. It just didn't feel right. So we ended up bringing it like a bit further down. And then I was like, oh, there was a sweet spot. And sometimes I think we always think, oh, we want that turnover,
Million. Yeah.
but we don't work out what that actually means. And when you do the corporation tax return, the personal tax return, and actually work out, actually there was a sweet spot a bit lower than that. So we knew where we was aiming for. And I started having conversations with branding experts. And then one day, I think it was a business coach I was speaking to. She said, why don't you just ask some people that because there's a community around you, what they would like want you to, rather than you going to change your brand, speak to the people that could potentially be the ones that want to buy your business, and what would they want it to look like. So I did that. I phoned a couple of people, and within 24 hours I had an amazing offer on the table, and it was at the brand.
There's a lot that I want to ask you about this. I love this story. Okay. So one of the things that I'm taking away from this story, which I think is major, and it's one of these things that people, they get trapped in this idea of my business should be like this, like that, like this. I should have that revenue. It shouldn't be a personal brand. I should have this. I should have that. And obviously there is a framework of what makes the most sellable, the most perfect, the most valuable business. It's all true. Selling a personal brand, harder than selling a company brand. It is just what it is. Having more revenue means higher multiples. You're likely going to get more money for your business than when you have lower revenue. That's all true. Yet, I love your approach where you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to ask the people who I think are going to buy this business before I change anything. And this is such a valuable lesson because every business is worth something. Every business is sellable. Every business is valuable. I keep on saying that. And some people will say, no, that's not true. That's a lie. But I really, truly believe that. Maybe not for the money that you want. That's another story.
Yeah.
But every business is valuable and every business is sellable. And some buyer will be like, you know what, Joe, I think you should change this. And another buyer will be, for it to be perfect for me, you should serve these kinds of clients. And another buyer will be, I would love your profit margins to be this rather than that. They all have their own little thing that they find important. And I love for you to just take matter in your own hands and be like, you know what, I'm just going to ask the ones that I think who might potentially buy my business or who I would love to buy my business because I value them, I appreciate them, I love working with them or whatever, and go and ask and see what they find important. Now, what came out of that?
So what came out of that is that I didn't realize what my personal brand was valued at. I didn't realize that the guy that I spoke to was building a software that was targeted at my six-figure bookkeeper community. And he wanted to be the man that bought me my business to gain awareness amongst my community.
Yes,
I
girl.
didn't think about all of those other things. I thought that they were so separate and I hadn't pieced that together. And I would never have known, I'm not going to try and pretend, I would have never put the two and two together. And everyone I spoke to was like, he's genius. That's such a good idea. And I was like, I know, but I just wouldn't have known that. So I think the offer was in July. Um, the deal was done in August, and I was out within 2 weeks because,
Incredible. That's a
yeah.
testimony also of how well your business, I think, was structured and
Hmm.
organized. You did mention it was a personal brand, but it does seem like there were a lot of systems and procedures in place for you to be able to just walk away within 2 weeks and be
Yeah.
like, there you go.
Yeah, and I mean he took on all the fears I had, because I had family working in the business. He took them all on. My sister is still there. Um, my husband left in July or August, but yeah, he was there for a few years, and it had a great experience. Um, Everything, and my clients were happy. Um, and I maintained the sale price, by I continued putting work towards the business for the following year, so that I maintained that sale price, so I didn't lose anything from the sale price after the 1 year agreement. I was paid out over 3 years. I'm still being paid for the business, and it was now. I'm not going to say it was easy. Looking back now, it feels like it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. My sister didn't want to sell, and she was a shareholder. So it caused, there was issues with the family. Nothing, including money and security and livelihoods, is ever going to be simple. But do I look back at it and think, thank you, and I'm so pleased I picked up the phone that day and just asked the question. And I didn't just ask that one gentleman, I asked a few people, and you are so right. Other people valued it at nothing. Not nothing, but like just wasn't for
Peanuts.
them because of the personal brand. And other people were, and since what's been interesting, I've had about 5 people kind of have a go at me and say, why didn't you call me? I'd have bought it.
Too late.
Yeah,
Next
exactly.
time.
Next time. Next time. But and
Exactly.
and that's truly it, because now I'm building other businesses with exit in mind. Like on day one of Hey Monica, and I will tell everybody, I had a meeting last night with a massive corporation, and they're talking about how we're going to work together, and I'm like, we're exiting one day if you want to be part of this. I talk with it with confidence. It's become something that I'm going to do.
Do you feel like you're building something now differently because you have the exit in mind? What's different? I mean, you've mentioned already a little bit the conversations that you're having, which are
Hmm.
slightly different or with different kinds of
And
people.
that is a real, every stakeholder I speak to in the business, I explain about this, because that was one of the toughest things, when your customers and your suppliers and your contacts believe that you're going to be in that brand and that business forever. I felt like I was breaking up, like ending like
Yeah.
a relationship with so many people. And also, I don't think people talk about, I was very strategic about, I wrote a list of all the stakeholders that had anything to do with my business, and I phoned them all personally. That's all I did for those 3 weeks, really, was just talk to people about why I was doing things and help them to go on that journey with me. And now I feel like I'm doing that up front, so that I will never have to have those tough conversations again.
Yeah,
Um,
it won't be a surprise.
it won't be a surprise. People are going to be expecting it and celebrate at the time, because they're going to feel like they're part of the journey.
Amazing. I love that. I want to talk a little bit about that. You've briefly touched on it, but there's a question I had a little bit about the emotions that are going on during that exiting process. So, what was kind of like emotionally harder than you expected during the exiting process? Like, and how did that show up maybe in the negotiations that you did or in the decision making? I mean, selling a business is emotional. I think we can, we all know that and we expect that. But what were the things that were even harder than you thought they were going to be emotionally, besides supporting your this business supports your family, not
Yeah.
everybody is aligned on the sale? Any other things that you were like, ugh, that
I
was a
mean,
tough one?
something I think I didn't expect was, I didn't expect like it's a double-edged sword. Like how much respect I'd get for being somebody who sold a business. Like I feel like people look at me differently in a positive way. But then for me to not be running a bookkeeping practice while coaching other people that do, I feel some kind of guilt and feel like I've slacked somehow by not being in the weeds with them, and a little bit of like, well, it's okay for you. And people will assume and think, and they know how much you've like they expect that, I had so many people saying to me, why are you working, why are you not on a desert island? I mean, I think people's presumptions of what when someone's sold a business is that they are multi millionaires or something, and that's you can sell at so many different levels. So and I don't, even if I won the lottery, I don't think I could stop working because I just love it. But so there's it comes with, and I feel something strange as well, a difference with close friends.
Mhm.
Like uh, all my friends that are employed, I became there was a distinct like gap between us, where it's like they just don't understand the world that I'm in, and I didn't really, it was new for me, but at least I was living it every day, and I know the mechanics behind it all. But they didn't really ask me about it. I don't think no one really celebrated with me.
Mm.
I didn't get to celebrate it at all actually because of the issues in the family dynamic. I just picked up and carried on working. And there was a couple of times where, like, I'm the eldest of five, so there's many siblings. One of my siblings was like, "You've not celebrated this. This is massive," and I felt guilty.
I have heard this before, and I'm sorry this happened to you too, but I have heard this before from multiple owners who sold their business and didn't celebrate
Yeah, yeah, and
because there's guilt,
yeah,
because the journey was difficult, because sometimes, I mean, the journey can also drag on for much longer than you think, and you're kind of so exhausted, you don't have the energy anymore to celebrate. But it's one of the advices that we always give at the big exit is like, celebrate. That's
yeah,
the first thing that you should do, although it is in a very small committee of just maybe one or two people around
yeah,
you, or just your little family or whoever you feel appropriate celebrating with. So, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that that also, it puts to show the reality sometimes of what an exit also means, and maybe, like the tensions that can arise, and maybe some of the jealousy that might happen, maybe you feeling guilty, maybe you thinking other people will think of me like this and I
yeah,
shouldn't, like it's this kind of a guilt that arises where it's like, I'm not going to buy that car because what will people think,
yes,
and they'll make assumptions around how much I exited for.
yes,
And they're probably not aligned with reality at all, but I'm not going to do that luxury cruise that I've been dreaming on because I don't want to draw that attention to me. So thank you so much for sharing that, because it's one of the things that you need to come to terms with as well, as an owner, I think. And you're not alone. I can
no,
tell you that, like, I've heard it a couple of times before. So yeah. Has everything already settled now a little bit? We're a couple of years later. It's 2025. You sold in 2023. Like,
yeah.
how are you doing these days? Did you sell because you really, I mean, you had the assumption that you really wanted to take forward the other project that you were working on, the
Yeah.
community? Do you still feel that exact same way? Do you feel like it was the right choice for me to kind of leave this in capable hands and
Yeah.
then 100% focus on this thing?
It was really funny actually. I took a month after I sold where I said, because people were going, "What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now?" And even though I was like, "Oh, I do already have another business. I'm just currently doing two full-time jobs, and I do already have a business." Um, but I didn't know because it felt like I had so much time, even though I did have this other business. I couldn't imagine having 100% of my time on the community, and so I took a bit of time to have a think. It's funny. I actually I like stopped drinking any alcohol for like 6 months. I kind of was clean. I needed clarity. I needed to kind of go inwards and figure out what do I want to do. Don't jump into because when I started my practice, I'd started it because I needed to keep a roof over our heads and I needed to grow it quickly and I needed to go, 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 go. And I didn't have any other options. Whereas I felt, okay, you've got a bit of time. Just, you've never had this time. So I took a little bit of time and I came back around to I want to go fall into the community. I don't want to go and there's no other passion projects out there, and I have. And but then in the meantime, we started Hey Monica. So I've ended up with two more businesses again. Like I'm ended up just doing the same thing, but very different. Very different. There's no, yes, obviously I have customers and clients, um, but the bookkeeping role is very time, obviously you have month end and quarter end and year end and then there was big teams, whereas I've got very small teams. It's very much leader and founder led. I have so much fun. I've still got family all around me in my businesses, and I'm doing much more deals with, I think, with this newfound confidence. Um, we have brand deals and partnerships, a completely different level to what I'd have ever thought that we would do before. So it has helped me with confidence, absolutely.
I love that. That's amazing to hear. And also just want to highlight it how important it is to take that little piece of space
Yeah.
after selling, because it's so easy to jump into the next thing. I mean, you clearly have a lot of energy too. Most owners have a lot of energy, and therefore it's so easy for us to kind of, we keep that
Yeah.
train moving. And when that project is no longer there, it's like, well, but the train's moving and I want to work on something and I literally can't take the time to take a little bit of time back because my adrenaline is so high, my stress levels are so high. I don't have the capacity to, you
Mm-hmm.
know, calm down and get that clarity. So I'm so happy for you that you've allowed yourself that space to take that time and to kind of like really come back to who you are and your center and how you see the next chapters of your life. So thank you so much for sharing that with the audience as well, because it's a golden tip, I would say, for everybody who's exited or is planning on exiting is to
Yeah.
celebrate and then take the time to kind of
Yeah.
cool it all down
Recalibrate.
and calm your nervous
It's a bit
system
like
and,
when you end a relationship, they say, don't
don't jump
jump
into
into
the
another
next.
relationship too quickly. It's the same with business. Don't jump into something else too quickly because
Because you don't
you'll
want to
be a
be alone.
rebound.
Exactly. I love that. Don't start a rebound business. It's not a good idea.
No.
I love that. Oh, Joe, this has been amazing. I feel like we could spend another hour
I
talking
think
about
so.
this, but I also want to be respectful of your time. And I really appreciated you crafting out a little bit of like 30 minutes in your day because I know you're pretty busy as well with lots of things going on. Anything you'd like to kind of add before we wrap things up?
I just think, if you're thinking about this, obviously you have so many great tools, and we have spoken. I did speak to you along my journey of selling. So just be curious. Don't assume anything. You don't know what somebody else is looking for, and go on the journey of being like, a student of your own business. What do other people see? What are other people thinking? Listen to advice. Don't take it all, but listen and be kind to yourself along the way.
That's beautiful. We're going to quote this one, put it on a Christmas card. Thank you so much, Joe. This has been an absolute blessing to have you on the show. Gonna wrap things up with a quick outro, and then before we kind of close the webinar, I just wanted to wish you a lovely and amazing end of this year, and a lot of things that are going on for the end of this year for you. So I'm wishing you an amazing time for the next couple of weeks ahead, and obviously a splendid and lovely 2026 as well. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I've loved it.
So that's a wrap for this week's episode of the Master Your Exit live show. Thank you so much for joining me and Joe today. I hope you're leaving with some valuable insights to help you prepare for your big exit. Now, remember, you can catch the replay of this episode and all of the other episodes on our website, thebigexit.co/master your exit shows, or listen to the audio version on your favorite podcast platform. I also love to hear from you. You can send in your exit related questions via our website as well. You go to thebigexit.co/master your exit sign up. There you can sign up for next week's show to be there as an audience and to leave your exit related questions so we can get them answered next week. We'll be back next Tuesday at 7 a.m. in Los Angeles, at 10 a.m. in New York, or at 3 p.m. in London time, with more tips, expert interviews, and tools to help you master your exit. Until then, keep building, keep preparing, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here. Enjoy the end of the year.
Will do.